Hi everyone, Saul here back again for another show, and again we've got a top guest for you. It's Jan van Loon. Jan has incredible experience, over 30 years in the game. I first came across Jan and when he started working at Arsenal. He was head of individual player development, and yeah, been keen to try and get him on the show for many years. Been tracking him down. He's got experiences working for the Dutch FA, also at Utrecht, also worked around the world in India. So someone obviously who's got lots of great insight and experience to share, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this one. And don't forget, if you're interested in learning more about ball mastery 1v1 and small-sided games, check out my online courses at mypersonalfootballcoach.com. You can get 20% off at the moment. Use the code MPFCCoach. Take your coaching game to the next level. Find out why 1v1 ball mastery and small-sided games are the key ingredients for all the top academies in world football. But without further ado, let's get into the show. So welcome back to another Coaching Family special, the My Personal Football Coach podcast. Welcome to my good friend, co-host Glenn Hicks. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm very well, thanks, mate.
And we're joined by a very special guest all the way from Holland, Jan van Loon. Jan, how you doing?
I'm very well, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I've been stalking you for many years to try and get you on the show. You've been a very busy man working around the world, so luckily we finally got you here. Just give us a brief outline, Jan, of your playing and coaching journey.
Well, I played amateur, and when I was 16, I got the opportunity to go already to a school where you become a coach, where you can learn to become a coach. And at the same time, I was playing at a club in the south of the Netherlands, professional club, and that combination didn't work out. So after 16, I had to put the professional career somewhere else, and I kept on playing till I was late 30s, and then I stopped playing.
And so tell us about your coaching journey then. Tell us about your coaching, where you've been and what you've done.
I actually, from the start, that I could play football, let's say 6-7 years old, that you start to kick a ball. I was always interested in more than only kicking a ball. And so I wanted to read books, because at that moment there were no videos or that kind of stuff. Books about techniques and about the game. And when I was 12, I organized a street football competition in the neighborhood, so different streets against each other, and I had referees and I had pitches with a nice tree in the middle of the pitch and that kind of stuff. So that was already early that I started to explain to younger kids what they could do. Yeah, and then when I was 14, I was starting as an assistant coach with one of the youth teams in our amateur club. And when I was 16, I went to a school where I became a football coach. And
so let's go on to then your professional career and your clubs. Let's talk about the academies you work on. Focus on that stuff.
So in that school we had the opportunity to go through C, B, and A license. Rapidly, and when I was 18, I got the opportunity to do the A license, and I also got the opportunity to do my work experience at Guus Hiddink at PSV. He was at that moment coach of the B team, and that was, of course, an eye-opener for me, how you can create a certain playing style with players and explain them how to play without really telling them what to do, but more organizing the training sessions that they learn automatically. Yeah, and then I stayed 7 years at PSV Academy, went for 10 years to the Dutch FA, was 10 years academy manager at Willem II. I came over to Arsenal for 3 years. I was in the Bundesliga, assistant coach of the first team. 4 years head of coaching at FC Utrecht, and 2 years head of youth in India at Bangalore FC.
Fantastic. So that's an incredible career you've had, Jan, so far. Let's go back then to that time at PSV. What were tell us some of the initial lessons learnt there working at that top academy, one of the best academies in Europe?
Well, I think you know Will Curver from the past. So at that time,
Yeah, of course.
uh, I told you I was going to libraries and find books about coaching from all English books, German books, Will Curver books, and then the first the videos, the what is it, VHS videos, they came out. So I tried it to implement that, and I actually was coached myself in the south of the Netherlands by Will Curver when I was still playing. Yeah, so that was also what happened. So I coached a lot of young players in the age of 13 and younger. So there was a lot of ball manipulation, ball handling, being able to control the ball in all football situations. Yeah, and then later on, I started coaching under 15s, under 17s, under 18s, seniors. So all age groups. And that was actually at my time in those 7 years at PSV.
I mean, should tell us how then, essentially, isn't it? Because you talk about the Will Cover work. Will, obviously the father of, especially the stuff I do, the individual skill work. Tell how tell us about doing that, and then also delivering the team stuff as well, the tactical aspect. How did you balance that when you're a team coach in terms of delivering the individual skill work and then also doing the team tactical shape and that sort of stuff?
To be honest, at that time, it was still a lot of football was controlling the ball. So technique. So it was a lot of passing for the sake of passing, dribbling for the sake of dribbling, but not with an intention, and not with willing to achieve a team goal or just very individual. And that was so that was also my approach at that time. So I did a lot of individual stuff, everything with the ball, total ball control in all kind of situations. But if I look back, it was not really game related enough. And that was of course also where we what we discussed with Will Curver about, okay, can we make it more let's say team objectives included, what was of course also included later in the vision. And so one of the players that he had in his academy was Boudewijn Zende. The player that later also reached to the national team, but he came to PSV. So I coached him when he was 12, 13 years old. And that was a player who also had done all kind of other sports before. That was not only a football player, and he was not only doing the Will Curver stuff, but he was also very intelligent in knowing what to do, what on the pitch from a team result. But I also had players who went through that pathway of Curver who didn't have that. So they were only able to control the ball, but not with an intention to create a chance or to create an overload. That was not yet there, but that was developed in those years after that. Let's say between 88 and 91. That was really from Curver individual technique. Everything what was there at that moment was individual technique, and then it became more game related.
I mentioned that, Jan, because obviously a lot of my work I do, I've got to let it come in a minute, mate. Sorry, I'm dominating again. But a lot of work I do, again, I say it's really important to the ball mastery is linked to the game. The 1v1 really linked everything. That's the context is really, really key. And I think that's a misconception a lot of people talk about when we talk about the individual technical work. They say there's no relation. I said there is a relation, and you just got the skill of the coach in terms of doing that. Can you tell us how you did that then? How do you action that? How did you take that from the old style Cove method, dribbling to a cone, come back again, like 5 people taking turns to go and make it a little bit more game related while still working on that individual technique?
Yeah, so the first thing is, of course, to include direction. And you can do that with goals. So if you want to score a certain direction, you have to defend in the other direction. So that's a simple one. And the other thing is, of course, that you can include space. So if you make a very small, narrow but long pitch, you emphasize on going forward. But if you make more a wide pitch but not that long, you emphasize more on finding the space on the side and from that position go forward. So you try to implement all kind of different parts with small-sided games. So you start with from 1v1s to 2v1s to 2v2s to 3v3s, and then you end up in 4v4, where you get already a little bit the shape of a diamond with that, and then you can build onto that like 6v6, 8v8, and then 11 against 11.
Very interesting. Glenn, you want to come in here?
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about like the technique to skill and actual becoming game craft and actual football intelligence, because there's a lot of wars, isn't there, on X and all these Twitter and stuff and different platforms where it's always something versus another. Like, do we go just technique? Is it just the game, the teacher, which I don't agree with at all. But it's interesting to see when does technique become skill and how much time do they do it. But what you're talking about there with constraints, Jan, as well, about creating an environment where actually the technical practice puts things into context, like Saul says, like the size of the space, the position on the pitch, the situation with your back to pressure. Because, for example, like Mickey van der Ven, for example, a fellow Dutchman, where when the ball's played over the top, and people talk about his pace to recover the ball, but I think he's a master of dealing with pressure at his back, because he allows them, the ball's over the top, he gets to the ball first, he allows the pressure on his back, but he's an expert at rocking and rolling, or twisting and turning, as we say, and he doesn't just always play back to the goalkeeper. He'll face forward and he'll actually start a counter-attack or a breakaway, and it's so contextually it's a different situation, but it would be similar to, I don't know, Eden Hazard at the top end of the pitch, who was a master at dealing with the ball under pressure, or the Messis of the world. So the technique developed is the same, but the context of the situation on the pitch is completely different. Do you know what I mean? But the levels of the pressure remain the same. In fact, if anything, that is higher risk for Van der Ven to do it, because if he loses it, they can see the goal. If Hazard loses it, they forget about it, probably because there's someone picking up the pieces. So it's interesting to hear yourself in your own coaching have gone on a bit of a journey to actually bring it forward to more kind of like contextualize and developing game craft. Because I imagine there wasn't YouTube and the luxury that young coaches got nowadays, where everything's shared. You're having to go and find books, and we used to have library cards, didn't we, Saul? So if you want a book, you had a library card and you go down the library. So it's fascinating to hear your own journey with it as well, Jan.
Yeah, well, so I think you say something very important, that there is a combination of what technique are you using to solve a problem on the pitch. So that's the context of the game. And what I learned, especially from Hiddink and later on of other coaches, was not to tell the players what to do, but put the players into situations where they have to solve a certain situation, and then almost mold it into, okay, what are your options? And if you have only one option, then you're very limited. So what fits to you? So what option is directly able to do? Or can you add other contributes, other qualities to find other solutions? The example that you give with Mickey van der Ven is that he almost attracts the striker of the opponent to create space behind that opponent, in the back of that striker. So your midfielder has more space to receive the ball, and you bring a problem. If you play too early, then it becomes two opponents against one of your teammates. But now it becomes maybe one-on-one, or even two teammates against one opponent. And that is, I think, the combination of understanding what to do, but also being able to do it. Because you can have it in your head and see it, but if you can't execute it, then there's still nothing.
Yeah, and tell us about the 4v4 model, because remember when I first started my coaching career, that was really big in terms of the Dutch. Obviously had the individual skill work, but also the 4v4 game work. Tell us about, because obviously in England now we're going down to 3v3, small-sided. Tell us about, one, why is it important? And two, tell us about the different tactical outcomes you can get from a 4v4 in relation to like 11v11, for example.
Well, I want to come back, Glenn, on one of the things you said. I always think in and not or this or that. So if you ask kids to start a training, what's the first thing well, when are we going to play the games? So that's the first question they ask. So, and they don't care if it's 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, as long as it is a game. So at that time, it was especially Rinus Michels who was thinking of, okay, if we break the 11 against 11 situation down to game understanding, you need depth and width. And with depth, you also create depth backwards. So deep and high, left and right. So you need those options so that you can create that next to a goal where you can score in. So the opposing team has to protect the goal, and then normally you play 4v3 because one of them has to also keep an eye on the goal. If your striker goes to the sideline and the center back follows, then I kick it directly into the goal. So you wanna create already a certain form of tactical awareness of space and time. That's the first reason that the diamond of the 4v4 was created. And then of course you have all options to go a little bit back. So maybe a 3v2 situation with a goalkeeper, or even a 2v1 situation with a goalkeeper, or 1v1 situation on the goalkeeper. That is backwards, so make it more easier or maybe even more detailed to an individual. And then later on you can build it up from, let's say, 4v4 to 5v4 plus a goalkeeper, and then coming closer and closer to the 11 against 11 game. And I think that was great because I played 11 against 11 as an 8-year-old. that was unbelievable. That was at that time. There was nothing else. Nobody thought about let's have more touches on the ball, less big goals, the space more adaptable, that you have more scoring chances, and the ball goes quicker from goal to goal. That was not there. It was 11 against 11. That was the only thing that was done.
Interesting. Let's just test about now. Let's move on. Then we'll move on to your time at Arsenal. I want to hear about coming to Arsenal, coming to London, coming to a different country. What were your initial thoughts about English football, about the academy system, about the boys at Arsenal compared with the boys you'd seen in Holland?
Well, that was. See, maybe it's good to say that that I was coach of the under-16s at the Hill End. And that was a lead coach role. So that meant that I was also working with the other coaches from under 9 till under 16. And then, under 16 is the decision making for the scholarship. They would go to Colney. So I was in the morning, I was at Colney to see, okay, what is required, what is happening there. And then in the afternoon and evening, I was at Hill End. I was enjoying myself a lot, you can imagine. So, to be honest, I didn't see that much difference. We had a lot of players who started playing on the street, like Reece Nelson, Emil Smith-Rowe, Eddie Nikita, Joe Willock, that kind of players, but also other players who were really good and play in maybe a little bit lower level now in England. But the level was really good. What I think a lot of coaches at that time will remember is that we saw that we trained 2 hours plus, and that made the intensity go down a lot. Because if you have to train for 2 hours and at the end of the game there is training, there is a game, you will not spend that much energy at the start of the training because the game is still coming. And that meant that there was a lot of technique training, isolated, but in a very low tempo. So the intensity was very low. So everybody looked like a top player. but it was in a very low intensity. So we first brought the training time back to 90 minutes or sometimes even 75 minutes. What meant that the tempo of the training went up a lot. And then at once, those players were not so good anymore. Because they had to, under full pressure, they had to decide what to do. And there was also opponents, real defenders that tried to nick the ball out of you. So a lot of game-related situations, always with competition. So one team against another team, and who can beat each other, 1v1 or 2v2s. So there was a lot of high-intensity running and high-intensity decision-making, and under high pressure taking decisions. Yeah, and then you see, hey, wait a minute, the players need more guidance. So then we broke it more down to, okay, what kind of technique in the context of the game you need so that you can control those situations. But then it was useful because then the broken down training session from, let's say, a 6v6 game high intensity or 4v4 high intensity was broken down in a situation that you had to practice your first touch, but then with high intensity, with real defenders that were chasing you or pressing you. So that was the start. That was the first, let's say, 6 months at Hill End.
And tell us just generally, what are your thoughts on English football? I mean, you're going with the 16s around, taking them around England, playing the games. What would compare and contrast it to what Dutch football was like at the time?
So I love football, and if England is, of course, that is, you breathe it, you feel it, it was for me just 3 years, living my dream. So, and I met a lot of young coaches. I mean, at that time, the under 16 coaches at the academies were often young coaches, younger than me, because I turned 50 at Arsenal. But I had colleague coaches that were just 24 or so, and we always had a good chat before and after. And of course, during the game we fighted. Big example for me is Mike Scott, who was at West Brom, and we had. I even one time drove up to him to have a full day of conversation about football. So I was just. How do you say that? In a candy store or so, living like a child in a candy store. So I want to thank everybody for that time, because it was unforgettable, that experience. And I saw all those young coaches coming up. And they were very interested in all kind of ideas, to discuss things. And not because it maybe was bad. No, it was actually to add something to it. I come back to your comment, Glenn. It doesn't have to be or this or that. No, you can add something to it. I also saw the talent. I mean, there's so much talent, especially in London. I mean, I don't know exactly the other cities, of course. I only 3 years is not enough to experience the whole of England. And of course also the challenges that are different. I mean, it's really tough to get in an academy. Like in the Netherlands, we have 18 million people, and we have around 30 professional academies. So if you can kick a ball straight, you will be already in a professional academy. In England, wait a minute, you really have to be good. It is not for everybody that you can get there. Those players were of a high level, but at the same time, they were also just kids, youngsters with the same problems as every kid and youngster in the world.
Glenn, you want to come in here?
Yes, mate. Just want to talk about, again, like you just said, Jan, about the verses. It's always so, I see something earlier on and it just poked me again. about what's the best way in build up, should they play short or should they play long? We need to teach children to be able to kick the ball if we just play short, because obsessed with it, children won't be able to kick the ball properly over any particular distance. We won't have Xabi Alonso's, David Beckham. So kicking the ball long, kicking the ball short, playing out from the back 5 yards or 50 yards. I think it's all relevant. We have to teach children to make good decisions, like you said earlier, Jan, and it comes right from the 4v4. Where is the space you're allowed? Is it in front of your opponent? Is it beside them? Is it behind them? Are they moving forward so you can go behind? So understanding the context again of movement. Is my opponent wide and he's left me space to run on the inside? Is he deep so I play from in front? It's all almost universal laws of football. And the things you said there, Jan, about intention and intensity is really key. And I think about a thermometer or a thermostat, right? People can watch a session and they can go, wow, look at the intensity. And they can read the gauge. Wow, everyone's running, everyone's working hard. But the skill of a coach, I think, is to be the thermostat. I think you have to know. So, for example, if we're doing a practice with young children on developing their left foot because they just refuse to kick a ball, I think the intensity physically, in terms of pressure, has to come down. But the intensity from a cognitive point of view and breaking down technique and understanding the fundamentals has to go up. So it might look slow, it might look awkward, it might look, to the untrained eye, those that just gauge in the heat of the session. And I think that's a really key skill to have in development, youth development, as you know, because if we're going to get technical players, you can probably get away with doing everything moderate. Like you said, the players looked extremely skillful in a low intensity environment, but eventually we have to crank it up to develop skillful players that become, I call it almost like they've got their football reflexes. What are their football reflexes? Or the instinctive stuff where, young Pedri in the last 25 games for Barcelona, for example, he got 15 man of the matches out of the last 25 or something mad like that. He was asked a question about a year and a half ago, and it still sticks with me, Jan. They said to him, how did you do that? And he'd done like a little clever skill, player type to his back. And he actually said in the interview, I don't know. I'm going to have to watch it back. So he was clearly running on autopilot, like 0.5 seconds, the whole Wenger model, and you've got 0.5 seconds to make a decision. So it's just that skill, isn't it, of being that kind of thermostat coach. When do you turn the intentions of the practice up and really zoom in on technique? But when do you go, right, we need to create as much stress and pressure on that player to really develop a skillful player? So it's interesting to hear you talk about that as well in your time at Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think so I pick out two things. That is one, let's say, the unconscious decisions. So that afterwards you ask, what did you do? And they say, I don't know. So it's so also, if you have to start thinking, you are too late. The situation is gone. And the other thing is, if you want to develop that, you have to bring the tempo a little bit down, because you're going to put information in the brains. How does that feel? How do I put my foot? They have to start thinking. That doesn't happen during a game. I always say, if you coach a game on a Saturday, just in general, don't coach the technique, because that is in the week. Because when you coach the individual technical skills, you have to practice that first on a lower level, or you must do every time the same. Then it's no problem. But if you learn a new skill, you first start easy, then you bring certain elements in it that it gets a little bit harder and quicker, and intensity and time and space and opponents, and then you can use it in the game. In the game, the coach is there to encourage players to find solutions, and then of course afterwards maybe can ask, how did it go? Yeah, it went really well. Okay, how many times did you pass your opponent? Oh, not once. Aha, so we still have something to do. Or can you solve that in another way? A little 1-2s, or find other options to create scoring chances and score. Yeah,
very
good
interesting.
point.
And then tell us about, we talked before, you talked about your philosophy is very much based around individual development, right? So, we've gone out about it a lot, but tell us some more examples about how people can, put that into a group environment.
Yeah, yeah, that is easier said than done. Because you often say to a player what the solution is. That the people think that is coaching, telling players you can solve this problem in this way and that problem in that way. But we all know that giving somebody the solution, that is 1 year in, the other year out. You have to experience it. You have to go through certain learning layers. And especially with all the resources that are available nowadays, you can do much more to help players to paint the right picture. So, okay, we're going to do this. This is something you can use in the game to achieve this goal. Create a chance, or from build up to attack, or also defending skills and techniques. And we're going to train that on exactly the part of the pitch that it's normally also happening during the game, so that they have that reflection. Just one silly things maybe, but when I train, the first thing I put on the pitch is the corner flags. And that has to do with my personal, I like to, I had a good long pass. I saw how to do that. I was always practicing in the street, so I had that attribute. But I looked at the corner flag, how hard I had to hit it when the wind was against us or with us, or I could, my brain could see, okay, this is the way, and then my foot could execute that. But you have to organize that as total as possible, and then you can use all kind of elements. You can use small-sided goals, you can use mannequins, you can use real opponents, you can step in yourself, just to paint that picture for that individual player, what is going to happen. And then later on, I always like to do that. We start as a whole group, then we separate in smaller groups or in individuals, and then we come back together as a group and practice that. And then afterwards, because that's all videoed nowadays, you can look at it and then you get a sort of a reflection on the training. So the video before, this is the picture, we go on the pitch, everybody knows what to do. Even the players know of each other what kind of goals they have. They can help each other. They go separate, they go in a game again, and then afterwards you evaluate. That is for me one session. And you do that, you have how many training sessions a year? 40 weeks times 4 training sessions. So 160 times you can do that. Now, and if you only do a team training session, that is not enough. And you know, Saul, why do all those players come to you? Because they miss something, they want something extra. And when that was not necessary, then they would not come to you.
Yeah, let's hope they keep coming to me. Anyway, but Jan, what bit of advice would you give then to a young aspiring coach who wants to have a career in the game like yourself? You've had an amazing career. What advice would you give to young coaches starting out now and wanted to learn and take on more information and be better coaches?
You cannot solve the problems for players. You have to create situations that players are able to solve their own problems, and you guide them in that process so that they become problem solvers, and you can help them with an environment that they are not afraid to make mistakes, that they try something, that you encourage them, and that they can develop themselves to the players can develop themselves to their full potential. And the other hand is, and maybe I did not do that good enough in my career, was don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to let somebody look at your training session, to ask for feedback on certain things for people that you trust, but also people that are able to give you honest and building up feedback. And I was always a little bit protecting myself for the critical voice, and that slowed down my coaching career. It took me longer to get to a certain level, and I think the coaches nowadays are more open and more prepared for asking questions and giving their career a boost with advice from people that have also experienced certain things and that they can learn of each other. So that is something for a young coach, I would say. You can, if you look at the most successful coaches that were coaching under 16s at the time I was at Arsenal, where they are now, they all put so much effort in their own development. So they were constantly questioning their training sessions, their way of coaching. They followed courses, they asked for advice, and they are now coaching in the Premier League, or even with the English national team. So, that is not a coincidence. That is hard work. That's just for a few that can do that. But they put the effort in. They were working hard for that. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Jan van Loon, thank you very much, mate. It's been top. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It was brilliant. Thank you, Glenn, Saul.
Thank you. Take care, mate.